This is the 23 News Update at 10.
The United Auto Workers will feel the support of President Biden Thursday, possibly ratifying a contract that would put more money in union members' pockets and give the city of Murrells a big boost. 23 News reporter Jake Pearson talks to political experts about the impact of Biden's appearance in the state line and what it means for Belvidere's economy in the future.
Stellantis plans to pump nearly $5 billion into the Belvidere assembly plant, building a new battery plant for electric vehicles, re-employing laid-off workers, and adding 1,300 new jobs.
The revival of Belvidere, the return of the employees, and a dramatic expansion of opportunity for good-paying jobs.
The president, he wants to make a splash, and a big splash, the bigger the better.
For the first time since 1976, a sitting president will visit the state line. President Biden is also the first sitting president to appear on a picket line. Thursday, he will solidify his support, speaking directly with the local United Auto Workers Union in Belvidere.
Well, here's an event that drops into their laps, which will have a very positive economic effect.
Biden's visit to Belvidere is a historic move, siding with union members in an effort to help ratify a contract with pay raises and health benefit improvements. The proposed plan for the Belvidere assembly plant won't just go back to making revenue for Stellantis, but also for the city of Murrells.
When the plant opens and hires more people, they spend money, which means more money gets spent, which means more money gets spent, and so on.
Senator Dick Durbin says Biden's visit is one of the best pieces of news he's heard for Northern Illinois in his memory.
I decided, and so did Joe Biden long ago, that the men and women who organize labor were the best allies possible.
Rockford University political analyst Bob Evans says Biden's appearance Thursday could also be a campaign strategy.
The president and Democrats in general have been losing the percentage of union workers that they always used to count on. He needs the UAW to be not just endorsing him, but pushing for him.
UAW Local 1268 will hold its ratification vote from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday at their union hall in Belvidere. In order to vote, union members must pay union dues from the past 6 months.
A statement from Senator Dave Severson to us says over the last 30 years, he has been honored to work with past governors to keep the plant open, which he says will mean a lot to the county.